Okay, this is a part on the human reproduction. So you need to know the male reproductive parts, which are here, stated here. The labeling, usually they ask you to label the parts. And also the female one, label the parts. Okay, you take note, this part where the egg is released is actually in this area. Okay, the egg is released and then the egg travel backwards, okay, through the fallopian tube. So take note of this spelling, fallopian tube. Okay, and then this part, the sperm, it has a nucleus. How does the sperm move? It has a very long tail to propel the sperm forward. Okay, so the sperm will enter through this part. If the men and the women have any sexual relationship, so the sperm will be released through this channel and it will swim upwards to fertilize the egg if there's eggs is being released by the women. So you can see here, okay, the nucleus contains the genetic material from the man, whereas the nucleus of the egg consists the genetic material from the woman. So if the sperm and the egg fuse, the child, right, will have characteristic from both the father and the mother. Okay, so okay, you think of this. I put this here. Humans, we do not come from monkey or ape, so we don't evolve from them. God made human. We don't come from apes or monkey. Okay, so this part you can see here, there's only one sperm is needed to fertilize the egg. Okay, this process, the fertilization, is a process whereby sperm fuses with the egg. Okay, so we are created by God, as mentioned in the Bible. From the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. Okay, you can read your Bible, this part, Mark 10:6. Okay, this part, I want to show you one video later about a certain process. So the women release the egg, the male release the sperm. So when they fertilize, this unborn baby is called a fetus. It will have the characteristic from the mom and the father. Okay, so this is the process of we call it gestation. So human is about 40 weeks, a full-grown baby inside the mother's womb. So from 9 weeks, so usually they divide into 3 trimesters, 3 times 3 months. Okay, 3 times 3 months. So 1 month is 1 trimester. Okay, so 1 month, 3 months are 3 times 4. So it's about here. So this is the first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. Okay, so you have to thank your parents for giving birth to you. Okay, here, this part, read and understand. These are some application questions in the exam. So you notice this part, this is the testy, right? So this one, they produce the sperm. So if they say, okay, you see this part, that this man decided not to have any more children. He go for a surgery, which are 2 tips shown are cut. So they cut this part, the operation. So they explain why this person not able to produce his own children. The reason is very simple. The sperm cannot be released through the penis here, cannot be sent to the vagina. Okay, so the answer is this part. Sperm from the testes will not be able to pass out the man's body, and that's why fertilization can occur. Okay, so if you cut one, because there are 2, if you cut one, the sperm still can be released. That's why in this question, this answer, right, cutting one of the tubes will not work because sperm can still come out from the other tube. Okay, this one is also a very common question. This one is, we call the IVF in short. IVF, I will show you one video now to understand this process, how to help women to bear children if they can't bear the children naturally, cannot bear children naturally. I will see this part. So sit back and relax this video.
In 1978, Louise Brown became the world's first baby to be born by in vitro fertilization, or IVF. Her birth revolutionized the field of reproductive medicine. Given that approximately 1 in 8 heterosexual couples has difficulty conceiving, and that homosexual couples and single parents often need clinical help to make a baby, the demand for IVF has been growing. IVF is so common that more than 5 million babies have been born through this technology. IVF works by mimicking the brilliant design of sexual reproduction. In order to understand IVF, we first need to take a look at the natural process of baby making. Believe it or not, it all starts in the brain. Roughly 15 days before fertilization can happen, the anterior pituitary gland secretes follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, which ripens a handful of follicles of the ovary that then release estrogen. Each follicle contains one egg, and on average, only one follicle becomes fully mature. As it grows and continues to release estrogen, this hormone not only helps coordinate growth and preparation of the uterus, it also communicates to the brain how well the follicle is developing. When the estrogen level is high enough, the anterior pituitary releases a surge of luteinizing hormone, LH, which triggers ovulation and causes the follicle to rupture and release the egg. Once the egg leaves the ovary, it is directed into the fallopian tube by the finger-like fimbriae. If the egg is...
Okay, so you see this part, right? As I mentioned, the egg, right, from the woman is being passed through the fallopian tube backwards. So this is the part where the sperm need to fertilize it.
Not fertilized by sperm within 24 hours, the unfertilized egg will die, and the entire system will reset itself, preparing to create a new egg and uterine lining the following month. The egg is the largest cell in the body and is protected by a thick extracellular shell of sugar and protein called the Zona Pellucida. The zona thwarts the entry and fusion of more than one sperm, the smallest cell in the body. It takes a man 2 to 3 months to make sperm, and the process constantly renews. Each ejaculation during sexual intercourse releases more than 100 million sperm, but only 100 or so will ultimately make it to the proximity of the egg, and only one will successfully penetrate through the armor of the Zona Pellucida. Upon successful fertilization, the zygote immediately begins developing into an embryo and takes about 3 days to reach the uterus. There, it requires another 3 or so days to implant firmly into the endometrium, the inner lining of the uterus.
Okay, this word, the word uterus, right, is also called the womb. So when the egg has been fertilized by the sperm, so after a few days, they must find a suitable site for this to develop into the baby. Okay, it needs to be implanted in the inner lining of the womb, also called the uterus.
Once implanted, the cells that are to become the placenta secrete a hormone that signals to the ovulated follicle that there is a pregnancy in the uterus. This helps rescue that follicle, now called the corpus luteum, from degenerating as it normally would do in that stage of the menstrual cycle. The corpus luteum is responsible for producing the progesterone required to maintain the pregnancy until 6 to 7 weeks of gestation, when the placenta develops and takes over until the baby is born approximately 40 weeks later. Now, how do you make a baby in a lab? In patients undergoing IVF, FSH is administered at levels that are higher than naturally occurring to cause a controlled overstimulation of the ovaries so that they ultimately produce multiple eggs. The eggs are then retrieved just before ovulation would occur, while the woman is under anesthesia.
So this part, right, the surgeon caused the woman to produce more egg, and then they use this microscopic siphon to put the woman under anesthesia. It means the woman is asleep in the operation, to remove the eggs from her body
through an aspirating needle that is guided by ultrasound. Most sperm samples are produced by masturbation. In the laboratory, the identified eggs are stripped of surrounding cells and prepared for fertilization in a petri dish. Fertilization can occur by one of 2 techniques. In the first, the eggs are incubated with thousands of sperm, and fertilization occurs naturally over a few hours. The second technique maximizes certainty of fertilization by using a needle to place a single sperm inside the egg. This is particularly useful when there is a problem with the quality of the sperm. After fertilization, embryos can be further screened for genetic suitability, frozen for later attempted pregnancies, or delivered into the woman's uterus via catheter.
So you see this part, right? This part, right? They send the fertilized egg back. Is very similar to the question here. If you see here this question, so this part, right? This part after the embryo means the fertilized egg. Okay, it has been fertilized by the sperm. So the sperm fertilized the egg. So the fertilized egg is called an embryo. So the surgeon got to put this embryo back into the woman's womb so that it can be growing well inside the womb or the uterus. So you can understand this process. So I come back to the question here, to the video.
Catheter. Common convention is to transfer the embryo 3 days after fertilization, when the embryo has 8 cells, or on day 5, when the embryo is called a blastocyst and has hundreds of cells. If the woman's eggs are of poor quality due to age or toxic exposures or have been removed due to cancer, donor eggs may be used. In the case that the intended mother has a problematic uterus or lacks one, another woman, called a gestational carrier or surrogate.
Okay, this one is less common in Singapore, but maybe more common in others Western countries. So if the mother, the wombs cannot carry the baby successfully, they will hire this woman called a surrogate mother. I think there's a movie about that, right? Some student told me that she actually so-called allow her womb to be implanted with the fertilized egg, and the baby will grow inside her. Okay, but this baby is not her. She's like helping somebody to grow a baby inside her womb. That's why it's called a gestational carrier or surrogate mother.
Surrogate can use her uterus to carry the pregnancy. To increase the odds of success, which are as high as 40% for a woman younger than 35, doctors sometimes transfer multiple embryos at once, which is why IVF results in twins and triplets more often than natural pregnancies. However, most clinics seek to minimize the chances of multiple pregnancies, as they are riskier for mothers and babies. Millions of babies, like Louise Brown, have been born from IVF and have had normal, healthy lives. The long-term health consequences of ovarian stimulation with IVF medicines are less clear, though so far, IVF seems safe for women.
Okay, so this IVF, the in vitro fertilization, is this medical procedure which we see here. So this question you can answer here, and then this part you try to do it here, and I want to show you the last part. So I have shown you this part, right? View the IVF. So this is an enlarged diagram of the previous photo. So I repeat the process. You can see here, right? So the egg has been extracted from the woman and placed in the lab, right? This is from the father. The sperm fertilized the egg. So the fertilized egg is called the embryo. So the embryo is being reinserted back in the woman's womb for the baby to be growing well inside here. Okay, so now they ask you, why is this female unable to bear a child when a fallopian tube was blocked? So that one you can refer to my book, right? The answer is on this page 88, which I'm going to show you. This part. So this is the answer. I will screen share with you, screenshot. So you can copy down this part. The fallopian tube prevent the meeting and fusing. The blocked fallopian tube prevent the meeting and fusing of the sperm and the egg. Hence, fertilization and production of the offspring. Offspring means the baby cannot occur. So that's the answer for this question. Okay, for this question, part A. Okay, part B, they say the matured egg is taken out. This part, the matured egg is taken out of the female body, suggests why the egg is placed back. So I already told you, right? Because if they don't place back, how would how would the fetus develop? So the answer is quite straightforward, is this part, right? The embryo was placed back into the womb to allow, okay, to allow it, the embryo, to grow and develop into a baby. So this is the answer for the part A and part B. And I would save this and send to you all in the chat. Okay, send to you in the chat for this question. Okay, so coming back to the question here. Okay, we have finished this part. Okay, so those with my book is actually page 88. My book is also nicknamed the Science Bible. Okay, so remember, we are not from apes or from monkey. God created us in his image. Okay? God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him. He means the man, male and female, created he them. Okay, so I have finished today's lesson. I hope that you'll appreciate this lesson. Can you turn on your video? I will take attendance here. Okay, let me off the recording.